Hello, everybody. Just give me a second here. I am what I assume to be streaming live. I am doing this literally on the fly this evening. Hope you're all having a good night. Well, I'm trying to anyway. Things are loading awkwardly slow. Haha! There we go. Sorry, I do want to be able to see my chat and a small screen. So, yeah. Welcome to Frankenmuth. I know it's been a while since I played, and obviously there's been some minor changes to Farming Simulator. The first of all being that precision farming is now out. That's huge, right? Uh, Frankenmuth, you may notice that this is not the farm that I left on, so there is a little bit of information to go over. Hopefully for any of you that watch regularly or have watched regularly in the past. Um, what is going on here? Wow. Okay. There we go. Wow, everything is running slow. Anyway, first things first, you'll notice that I am streaming on a standard format. I am doing it in 1080p tonight as far as the definition goes, but you may have noticed that I'm not currently dealing with Streamlabs, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, financially speaking, a $12 a month kind of fee while I'm streaming so little is not going to do me any good. The other reason that we have a different farm on a different month in a different year is because all of my save data from my original gameplay, the save data that we had corrupted. I literally lost everything. It was a huge deterrent in me getting back to streaming on the fly. This is a farm that I built about a month back, and I've been playing on since we got to that point. And so that's what I'm doing here. Is I'm playing on Frankenmuth. I've got a dairy farm going. It's a rather large dairy farm. $500 miscellaneous. Wonder what the heck. As I zoom around, there's like 100 vehicles on the map. But as you can see, it's a rather large dairy farm. I'm going to kind of give you an idea from the height. We've got two very large barns. These can hold 200 head of cattle apiece. This is the main yard. It's a little discombobulated at the moment, simply because I'm reorganizing and setting everything up to go. So don't be kind of taken aback by that. We're going to organize and clean things up. This is the main kind of fleet yard. This is where maintenance and the larger harvesters exist. You can see my field work. My winter wheat is growing in. It is March the 2nd. I'm about to speed up time. I didn't want time to be sped up while I was getting set up for the first kind of streaming on the fly, if you will. Okay, we come over to this corner of the map, and I have a facility set up. We have storage and sorting for the products. This is actually where 20 million liters worth of the of byproducts could go. So 20 million liters of anything. If you've been paying attention to Farm Sim, you know that we've got limits going on pallets. Luckily, those were up today. We've got 150,000 up. Sorry, 150 pallets is the new limit. We have the new AGI bin with dryer, I might add. Over here, we have a grain mill that can put the basic cereal into a flour base, so we can produce flour. But this one also has the ability to crack corn for chicken feed, or also make cornmeal for sales, much like flour. So if we have corn that goes beyond feed corn, then we will definitely have a good time. This right here is one of our hay fields. It is growing at a decent rate. We plowed this up in the fall and actually put some real live grass in there. Same with this was a fully grown grass field that we have. We have all sorts of fields across the map, and I'll go ahead and I'll actually pull it up so you can get a good look at it. So we have 13, 12, 11, 10, 24, 22, 23, 26, 27, 21, and we actually have field 36 over here as well. So those are all the fields we're working on. A lot of these you can see different colors for the different things that were planted in those. We are going to go ahead and plant mostly at this point. We've got soybean and corn planned for the fields. We do have one other facility over here, and I'm just using the construction tool. It makes it a lot easier to get around. You can see kind of the fleet of tractors is scattered everywhere. Got our lime spread over here. Okay, this is our farm shop. It's in a European style. Frankenmuth is actually inspired by a lot of Germanic cultures. So a lot of your cultural references and structures in the actual Frankenmuth is in a European style. And then over here you can see, as well as the farm stand to sell various products, we do have at this point 7 greenhouses. Oh my god. I don't know why that escaped me. I have just got off of a 10-hour shift at work. So if I seem like I'm at a loss for words, that could very well be it. But let's go ahead, let's zoom over. I know I'm zooming through a good part of the fleet. Right now we are getting water put into our Sorry, I'm trying to maintain everything off of a cell phone tonight. So I'm trying to fill up the hydroponic greenhouses. This is actually a mod that you can get. It works just like actual hydroponics would work. And you can see, let's open up the doors here. So instead of having soil, the plants are directly connected into these sponges and these rails, and they grow everything off of water. You can see there's a small green tank in the back. That small green tank in the back is for fertilizer. So we'll actually be putting fertilizer into the water as well. That's the whole point of hydroponics. It gives it growth without soil. We've got 30,000 liters of water in this one, 30,000 in this one. So we're just setting this up. It is March the 2nd. I realize it's very green now, but I can honestly say one of the things that I love about Frankenmuth is the weather. So when winter came, it came on really strong, and it kind of surprised me at just how snowy it was. So it was extremely snowy here on the map, and it stuck around for the entire winter. So, unlike the other maps that I've played on so far on FS22, this map has actually shown the potential of being somewhat stable, somewhat better thought out. The crop calendar is as follows. You can see right now, March, we've got oat, sunflowers, potatoes, sugar beet, sugarcane, cotton, grapes, olives, poplar grass, oilseed radish that can be planted. We are waiting to get into April when we do corn and soybean. We have an 8RX hooked up and ready to go to a 1775 NT. We even have the expanded tanks on that 8RX, which is rather nice. That's a mod, of course, by Sid Modding. The NT, I believe it's either custom modding or JHG modding for that. I apologize if any of the modders see this. You know, it's hard to keep up with you guys. You guys make some of the best mods in the market. JAHG modding, Sid modding with 2 eyes, and then of course custom modding. Those are the 3 modders that I fall back on the most for my tractors. EY modding makes some very awesome classics, and we're gonna be kind of branching out. But EY modding does some really awesome classic tractors, classic Massies. He's even got a Farmall H model. That's actually a trike if you're not familiar with older models. I would assume that the miscellaneous costs are filling up all that water. That's supposed to be free, but I guess it's $500 for 50,000 liters of water, which is really kind of cheap, all things considered. But we've got to get these hydroponic our greenhouses filled up with water. That's kind of the first task. Unfortunately, it takes forever. I think we're going to go ahead and move forward with the second thing. As you can see, we've got a nice storefront here. We can sell all sorts of goods. I haven't figured out what we're going to activate under the hydroponics, but I do know that we're going to keep the hydroponics greenhouses going through the winter. I did have a small grain mill that was a windmill, and one greenhouse that was over here at one point. But that, of course, has changed up. We can do tomatoes, strawberries, or lettuce in these, just like in the standard greenhouse crop. I will say that the one difference between this and the actual greenhouse itself is that these double in the amount that they output at any given time. And lettuce, tomatoes, strawberries, all of those are great things for the added productions that we have. So I figured I'd jump on, I'd say hello, let people know what's going on. I know I left with that 10-minute clip that really didn't justify me leaving, and I really do apologize. We got 14,000, so we're gonna move on. It's TLX 3500. If you haven't seen it yet, if you haven't messed around with this is a great mod. This is coming back from Farming Simulator 19. A lot of the stuff that we're seeing from 19 that is coming back to Farming Simulator is fantastic. A new modder on the scene that I love for placeables, and apparently I've seen some of his stuff on Clutch Simulations channel. Check that out if you can. Clutch Simulations is an excellent PC player for Farm Sim, and he's a very, very big contributor to the community. But two things that we have is this wonderful garage. It even has the door opener noises. The door openers light up when you turn them on. The snow machine is not one of his things, but Lizard F1000, also known as a Ford F1000. And then, of course, we have the Rampage, I think is what they call it in here. Ford Mustang GT. And then OK Muse Mods made this wonderful house. This is one of the few modeled houses that you can go into, but we've got a kitchen, a dining room, living room area, a piano, some pictures. Apparently, the guy painted the modder painted those himself. We have a bathroom with a gas scented air freshener. You can actually pick it up and spray it. That's kind of a cool Easter egg. If you're familiar with Toy Story, you've got the wallpaper. He's got a self-made picture of basically Sheriff Woody. It's a picture of an actual character in Farming Sim on a horse, but that's okay. And a computer game. I haven't really taken the time to zoom in or take a closer look at that, but this is like the kid's bedroom, a closet, adult bedroom. That's the sleep trigger, and actually in the walk-in closet, I know there's not as much detail, but Farm Sim rarely ever gets down to a detail that's so detailed. But when you get in here, you can actually open the wardrobe and you can change. Right now, my farmer's in kind of a March style. It's still a little chilly, but it's not cold enough to wear winter gear. Trust me, there was a point I was wearing winter gear. There was a point where we had a snowbank. And we actually had the opportunity to use some snow moving gear. I love it. And one of the things that you can see is I have weeds on. Thanks to precision farming, weeds have become a thing for me. And it was mostly due to the spot spray. So I'm going to do a little bit, well, we have the clock running down at half of real time, so 15 minutes actually takes 30 minutes. An hour actually takes 2 hours on the current, and a real allotment of time hour takes 2 hours in-game currently. So this just helps me when I'm setting up or when I had a couple other things to put into place. Things are a little hectic and chaotic at the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and do kind of like an equipment tour while we're doing it. So, of course, the first bit of equipment here is the R732i power spray. This is a toe behind. It's fertilizer and herbicide sprayer, and as you can see, it's got the cameras for the spot spray. As of today's update in Farming Simulator, update 1.5, that spot spray will work, so it only fertilizes the portions of the ground that need to actually be fertilized. So that's a nice, cool measure. We have a nitrogen scanner. This will actually give, it's a little safety, or it's a little scanner eye. This mounts to the front of the tractor and unfolds and basically scans the soil in front of the tractor for nitrogen levels that may need to be increased or decreased since the soil samples. We have drums of silage additive. This rack right here, these two racks are gonna be getting a little more in the rate of supplies. This is the Azaria Scout. This is going to give soil samples. We did mapping for our first set of soil samples. The only one that we had to do samples for directly was our first hayfield that we created ourselves. It was that long strip that I showed you when we were over at the grain mill. Okay, over in here, we've got our fuel tank. This is kind of a cool container fuel tank. You do see these on farms. They've got, you know, little measurements, kind of like the old gas tanks at gas stations. You could see them fill, and then they'd slowly reduce as the amount inside the tank reduced. So you can kind of keep an eye. We can refill right from here. I know I have the triggers on. I'll probably shut the triggers off once we really get going. Okay, this is our workshop. This is an in-map built workshop, but there's a few pieces and a few tools that are in place. There we go. Our water's finally full. We just got a notification of $500 being taken. We've got modified John Deere. This is a bit more like what you see around farms, honestly. I like that. It's not the base game one. It's a nice mod. We got a mod of an older John Deere 6x6. which is nice. It's got the weights on the back. You can haul things in the yard if you need to, typically light. We've got the John Deere 110, the 110 with a mower deck, and we actually got a wagon. This is going to be our lawn mowing tractor. There's enough horses on here to do what I need to. I need to also get a rake to haul behind this, but that is going to be our general maintenance drive around to the various facilities, mow the lawn. Over here we have a 7810 John Deere windrow is what they're calling this. This is a modded version with a little more detail on it than the base game. Obviously we don't have windrow tracks or anything like that. You've got quite a setup back here. This is the impressive part for me, is you just come back and you look at this model and you just see the detail on the hitch. You see the hydraulic tank over there. You can see the weights on the inside of the rim. I know some of this stuff is pretty basic and on the basic model as well that Giants took out, but it's pretty impressive. This particular 7810, and I say particular because we've got two of them, but this particular 7810 is what was used with this, the Samaz Tornado 252. And this is what we use to clear snow from the yard for 99.9% of the time. This is an impressive piece when you're on a map like Frankenmuth that does take the time to actually imitate true crop calendars and weather patterns. All right, so let's go over to the big shop here. We've got this huge shop with this massive door that runs the length. And we have this. So we have the John Deere 745 FD with air bar. So this is good for your beans. It's going to ensure that the beans get onto the belt and stay into the feeder house and actually get processed, rather than getting caught in the belt and thrown to the ground. You can see in this particular John Deere model, this S770. Yep, that's right, a 770, not a 790, but a 770. You can see we've got the dual tires on there, but you can also see this mod allows you to bring the panels up to show as if you're doing maintenance. So if you have the need for role-playing, for example, this will do you. It's also very realistic. You can see the bin back there. You can see the chains and the feeder house and everything. Return chute. It's kind of, if you have a clog, you would, this side panel opens. You can get your hand in there. Obviously not while it's on, but you can see kind of where this whole mod comes together, and it's cool. You can see the corner of the cab right there from the inside. Things that you wouldn't necessarily see. I love this one. When you turn on the head, you can hear the vacuum unit for the air bar turn on. It's just a really well done mod. Okay, over here we've got the John Deere 9000i, so the 9900 to be specific. We've got the 375 plus Stockbuster. So Stockbuster is a special mod that takes forage harvester heads and allows it to not only pick up, but it also mulches the stalks underneath. So you don't have to worry about running over it with a mulcher again. This, as you can see from the paint wear, obviously we've used this a little. This will take care of corn. This will take care of soybean. That'll also take care of sunflowers, which is what we've made our first crop of silage using. Because you can turn that, oh my god, I can't talk tonight. You can turn sunflowers into silage or into chaff. Over here we have our mowing deck that independently goes on the tractor. Kverneland 3332. And of course the rear one as well, which will allow you to windrow at the same time. Over here we have our haybine. So this is the 2280 diesel John Deere with the twin knife In this case, the 300 twin knife. It's a nice classic. It's a little slower. It's not as wide. Probably use that for second cutting of hay. Just because second cutting of hay isn't as important. Now you can open both of these bays. This is a nice touch. We actually have a way of handling things like that. We've got a big bag handler over here. This is a special John Deere branded one. But it is an actual big bag handler that'll handle a larger bag. We have a what they're calling a multi-grab HD, but it's a bucket specifically with a claw. So if you're digging up silage or whatever, then you've got a job there. Now right here we've got an RTK station. This one is to better the performance of AI. It brings just a more productive worker to the field. So if you use workers, this will actually help the worker. Up there you may notice an RTK lookalike. It's kind of got a box on it with a solar panel and kind of that same Starlink upload. That one's actually used for weather purposes. So we can actually tell better detail, an hour by hour detail of what's going on the farm as far as weather goes. So that is something to truly behold. We're going to go over here first and hit this back. So we've got a regular Demco flatbed. We have a few fertilizer tanks that have been strapped down on this. And we have a Unverth seed runner on the back of this. So what this allows you to do is there's a modder that's created the Unverth as well as these tanks. And you can basically place them on any flatbed, strap them down, and use it as a nurse trailer. So we've created a large nurse trailer out of this Demco. It just allows us to get liquid fertilizer out to the fields quicker and, run things that way. We've got a small trailer here. This actually hooks to the back of the John Deere Gator. That modded Gator to the front, the more modern one. We've got some herbicide on the back of it. We had a container of herbicide left. I knew we would need it for the spring season, so we just brought it over. We have the Demco 1300 auger cart here with all the bells and whistles, electric tarp, scales, the signs that fold, caution flags. Used primarily to transport our grain. Over in the other shed, we have several different tools specific to tillage. We've got the 2730 plow. This is a big boy. This takes a lot of horsepower. So obviously we'll show off a tractor. There'll be actually 2 tractors on our list today that could operate this thing, but one in particular that we'll use it for. We have our field roller over here, specifically to roll out planted fields. It's a nice piece of equipment. It's a Dalbo. Over here we've got a Lizard disc harrow. This is for vertical tillage. There's nothing real major about it. Oh, look at that. I forgot to sell these off. These were our original mowers, the 131. And the back butterfly deck that went with it, the 381. Those take less horsepower than the more modern version. There's actually a couple of different... K-brand is how we're going to say it. K-U-H-N. If you wanted to know what K-brand stood for. I'm not going to take chances because YouTube demonetizes people that are monetized with that say that word. So we're just not going to... We're going to refrain from saying it. So we've got the John Deere mowing decks. We won't have those. I'll be selling those. Vernland is our choice. Over here we have a fairly new mod to the family. This John Deere 1590 no-till drill. The only thing I've planted with this so far has been grass seed. But this is going to be the thing that starts planting our wheat. But it can plant anything that any seeder can. And it's one of those ones that I've seen on farms that I watch on YouTube. And I was wicked excited. This came out the same day that 7810 modified version came out. We've got the front tray for the granular fertilizer, or the dry fertilizer, whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, a huge seed tray that's actually open because we parked the big bag right here. So that does it for these sheds. Let's go ahead and let's move into the next shed. This shed would actually be more full if I organized and placed everything in place before starting this Let's Play. So, of course, we'll take your attention and move it to the John Deere 8RX. This is a tractor by Sid Modding. You can see the hose coming in, which means we have the exact rate tanks here. I've actually got them full and ready to go with liquid fertilizer. That 1775 NT we were talking about, here it is. That'll also have the liquid fertilizer, and we'll be putting the seed to it as well. So this will plant our soybean as well as our corn. And that's pretty much all this tractor is going to be used for, is for planting seed. We may take the exact rate tanks off of it in August and let it haul the Demco trailer around. Haven't made up my mind yet. This is our other 7810. This has got the dualies on it. It's two-wheel drive. Yep, the two-wheel drive option is a thing. You can see we're set up a little differently on this. We've got an extra tank for hydraulic oil. It's phenomenal how much you can change up. It's even got the pin hitch with kind of an elevated hitch. So you've got the whole kit and caboodle right there. You don't have to worry about getting anywhere else. But that is definitely something. You can see we've got the wheel weights to the inside of that tire, but not on the other side or on the outside one. And then we've got weights to the front. We use this to haul stuff around, typically in grain bin fashion. But anyway, let's mosey on across the street and see the gear and equipment that's directly used on the farmyard, or may just be parked in the farmyard just to make life a little easier, or just because I was in the middle of things. So we'll actually start our way down here. This is a silo for converting chaff into silage. This is a fairly new idea on the console. It's not something that we've had here in Farming Simulator in the past, but these silos have become a thing. And as you can see, they break down things, and you can see on the bottom number, we have chaff, 492,562 liters of chaff. We have 261,000 liters of silage. That right there is a field of sunflowers in there. The blower is on. This is what happens. It runs like a production. So it'll slowly create the silage. It's a little slow, but it is cool that that option is still there. We have our Lizard 863 with a bucket attachment. This is actually the Bobcat 863, just with the Lizard logo on there, because Bobcat is not an officially licensed brand of Farming Simulator. That's what they do to kind of change it. This is the first of our cattle barns. You can see we've got the TLX 2020 liquid, or lick it, depending on what you want to say. But it's the liquid trailer we use to carry the milk in. Just go ahead, we'll open up. This is a freestall barn with robotic milkers. This is a more common style in Europe, but like I mentioned, we're in Frankenmuth, and in Frankenmuth they tend to embrace a lot of European farming techniques. You know, that goes from raising the animals to how they operate their farms to how they build their structures. A lot of stuff in Frankenmuth, Michigan, is actually based off of some sort of European heritage. Got milkers on either side. We do actually have the ability to bring this gate up. The cows will walk through this, so it really doesn't... I try not to pay attention to it, because I know it's a game. you know, there's only so much realism, but we've got 82,000 liters worth of food, and we have 80 animals in there right now. We do have a John Deere 670 plow. I used the plow once to actually plow out and create the grass field. As you can see, the textures are not what you'd expect from a mod, and I don't know if that's just because it's dirty or whether you're supposed to view it kind of from a farther distance. But even like the John Deere logo is a little pixelated when you get close to it. But that was something on the used market, and we decided to pick it up, and we used it to plow out the area that would become that hayfield. You have the plow attachment for the 2020 TLX pickup truck. There is no option to put a plow mount on the 3500 model yet. I don't know if that's going to change, and they're going to bring a bigger plow or what's going to happen, but that's something we're not seeing right now. Over here we have our other barn in play. This barn has 70 animals, 89,000 liters of food. You see slurry is kind of building up. Straw is right where it's supposed to be. The reason that I'm doing two separate barns is I bought a fairly large amount of cattle early in my play, just so that I could get things really kind of going. You can see the manure pits don't have much in them. The reason that I'm doing that anyway is because the births do not happen in a sporadic manner like you would have in, say, Seasons 19, which is the Seasons mod for FS19. The Seasons mod for FS19 would have had every cow giving birth at a different time, and it would have been staggered. You might have had 3 or 4 on the same schedule, but you wouldn't buy 70 cows, for example, and have them all giving birth at once. So once they all give birth, there's going to be 140 cows in here and 70 providing and producing milk, just like there's 80 producing milk next door. There'll be a total of 160 cattle in that other shed. And so I don't want to have a scenario in which I have a 200 cattle barn and all of a sudden I run out of space and all the cows are trying to give birth and they can't. Reproduction just stops, which is kind of how a farmer would do it if they don't have enough space and they wouldn't sell their herd. They might stop for a while until they decide to sell some animals. But I want to see the herds grow. I want to raise about 400 head of Holsteins. So that's what are both in this barn is Holsteins. We have a Flegel Noah TTW 140 here. That will remain our animal transport for a while. You don't typically move around a whole lot of animals all at once, and even if you do move around some, you wouldn't necessarily move out of this realm. Okay. So we've got our spreader here for line. Lizard AD 7000. I'm not sure what brand this is based off of, but it's just a real simple Lizard brand in this case. You can see these hydraulic hoses clip into this holder here, but this is the ends that would actually clip into the tractor, and they go up in to operate different portions of this trailer. This is a fantastic trailer as far as lime spreaders go. We don't really have anything really interesting so far. I'm sure that'll change, but for now, that's my go-to. And it's got a 42 meter spread on it, so it's not bad. Okay, we might as well address the two tractors as well as the silo configuration over here. So this is a John Deere 7920. We did have a 7920 in the last game, however, the detail was shoddy at best. So we have one. There's a lot of touches, like the extra lights here above the hitch, that are very European in its styling. And you may notice that even like the plate is kind of squared off. It'll give you kind of the weight ratio on that for bridges and things like that. But it's one of my favorites for early 2000 John Deere models. And that's what we're running. And of course, we have a 900 kilogram weight on the front of this. A nice little touch. John Deere labeling. It's actually John Deere branded weight, which is not something we always get, but it is nice to have it. So I'm not gonna complain about that. That's just a nice way of handling it. Planted some trees in the yard here. We'll probably plant some more. We've got major plans for the center of this yard. Obviously, you can see I have a stave silo here. The stave silo's got almost 200,000 liters of silage left in it at the moment. It's got a blower fan to send up. This was my first real attempt at trying to make silage. I love the stave silos. They don't cost as much. You can kind of group them together. But we're going to try something different as far as food production for the next batch of silo, where we're going to be doing maize anyway. Okay, so behind the other tractor and between the stave silo and our other one, we have the John Deere 4440 two-wheel drive. Got the weights. Got the standard John Deere tires on them as well. Very good tractor. Not very difficult to run, but it runs purely our feed wagon. This is a very popular tractor in my area. In fact, this time of year, I live in the state of Maine. For anybody who watches this and doesn't know, I live in the rural part of central western foothills, what they call the foothills. And in the foothills, there's a lot of dairy farms, and a lot of these dairy farms, they don't carry too much for new equipment. You know, they keep something. The 4400 as well as the 4700 series is a very common tractor to see. So this, I see at least 12 to 15 tractors of these specific tractors every day. And when I say 12 to 15, I don't mean repeat sightings of the same tractors. I mean to say 12 to 15 of, you know, these tractors, these models. There's a lot more than that around, and that 12 to 15 can vary. But this is a tractor we're talking about 1978, 1979, somewhere there is about, and this is a very common sight here in Maine for me. Some of the other ones are things like International 86s and things of that nature. On the back of that, we have this Robert food mixer. This does 30,000 liters when it's filled, and it has eject points left, right, rear, and even a front blower. So this actually doubles as our straw blower for our bedding in the cattle barns. Over here is the new complex we just got done setting up specifically for hay. This is actually two of the same setup. Yes, I have tested to see if it works. In fact, this one should have some hay already in it. Can't see it, but that's that. We have over here a 6 million liter bunker silo. Yes, we are hoping to fill at least half of it this year, and then see how far we get with that. We have the Landall Haul-All. I'm just going to say it as it is. This is a Lizard branded specifically for the console. But that's what this is. It's a Landall Haul-All. It's a flat, you know, it's a drop deck trailer, I guess you'd call it. Haul stuff, the metal portions actually come out and create a wider tractor. We do have the third axle with the warning signs, with the lights, with the flags. I like this silo. I just set the silo up. We're going to see if a bunk will suit our needs a little more. That's kind of why we have it. It might not. We may go back to silos, but we'll find out. So we're over here. This is kind of set up because we're getting ready to actually use the slurry, but we've got a straw barn over here. this acts not only as a blower, but actually a bale shredder. So you'll be able to, when you make straw bales, you haul them back here, and you shred them, and the barn here holds up to 500,000 liters of straw. So that's kind of cool. It will do the other crop types as well, where the other forage types in particular, like hay and that sort of thing. We do have, for a moment, a Garant trailer. It's specifically just to hold extra slurry and to go into the fields. I like to use it just to haul slurry into fields. Over here we have the Samson PG235 with appropriate Argo. Just kind of a drop funnel look, I guess. Attached to it, we do have our 9620. I haven't really upgraded the equipment for more modern looks, but this is one of several of the articulating four-wheel drive tractors that Sid Modding now has out on the platform. It just kind of fits the more classic aesthetic of what we're going for primarily with our tractors. This isn't the only one, though. But this is the only articulating all-wheel drive tractor we have on the farm. You can see I've set it up with the trip row crops, and it's already hooked to the trailer because that's going to be our first thing, is to put some slurry on the field. We've got 101,000 liters of slurry sitting in the slurry pond waiting for us to take it. Hay bale storage over here. We've used maybe a quarter. I'm probably going to shift when we get into the next hay season. I'm probably going to shift half of these bales over to the animal dealer and sell off some of the bales. We got a TLX Phoenix with an auto load bed specific to bales. We got a JCB bale fork on the back of it at the moment. Pile of TMR. We do have some mineral feed. You don't have to use it, but if you're trying to add some realism into it, you can go ahead and add mineral feed to your overall menu. This is one of two of the same JCB TM320S telehandlers. I always want to call it a loader or a skid steer. I don't know why. It's neither. It could be mistaken for a loader, honestly, but it is a telehandler. It's just a bit bigger. Over here we have a small barn with some heifers. These are Swiss brown cows. We're keeping a small herd of Swiss browns on hand. They are 20 animals. They're not gonna, I primarily wanted to have some Swiss browns because unusual not to have a more traditional cow breed in a place like Frankenmuth. Obviously, Holsteins are traditional, but Swiss Brown go back to real traditional. As you can see, Giants makes them fully grown. They're only a couple months old in reality, though. It would take them almost a year to get to that size. Manure pit, slurry pit, and we might as well go over the rest of the equipment. I really do apologize if you're bored. Fork, some fertilizer, and then this is a real interesting piece. So this particular piece is actually a tedder that keeps things in a windrow, but it can also make tighter windrows. So we're cutting, for instance, with the Kverneland mower, which can windrow, or even the John Deere haybind that we have. This will actually run down the row, and we can adjust these wings. Yes, these can actually be adjusted. We can adjust the wings according to the width that we want, and we can make them tighter windrows. So it'll make it even easier for a baler or for a pickup to come along no matter what you use. Over here we have the fast bale system. Anybody who's familiar with Kverneland's fast bale system will know just how amazing this is. We'll be using this primarily for our straw this year. But we may yet make some hay bales. I'm not sure yet. And then we do keep a pickup wagon, which is more popular in Europe than anywhere else, really. But we do keep the Stroutman on hand in case we want to pick up loose hay, loose straw, anything like that. So that will actually do some forage crops. That'll actually even pick up silage if you run it over a silage pile. Okay. So down to the last few pieces of equipment here on the farmyard, and they are in awkward spaces where they will not stay. The first one is this wonderful modded tool, simply known as the lizard forage pickup. So this is going to pick up any forage crops, including hay. So if you've decided you've had enough of your hay, and your hay is going to be what they call haylage, then you use this, you pick it up, and you put it into those silos right there like we're going to be doing. What do you pick it up with, though? Well, in this case, what I'm going to be picking it up with is this right here. This is a 2020 John Deere 7R 270. This is the Gen 2, as you can see. And this is a custom modeled one by the modder. We put the chonky tires on there. I wanted something that looked a bit more beefy on my 7R. This is technically a large tractor, but it's on the smaller end of the spectrum. But we won't be running any 8Rs on the farm here unless we get unless by some miracle we do get the modded 8R that ran from 2008 to 2010, I believe. And then that will actually replace the 8RX that's over there. And probably this 7R at the same time. We'll probably stop having this 7R on. On the back here, we have Auger Master trailer. This particular one comes with a standard pin hitch option. There are 3 different options. There's actually a tractor trailer, a low hitch, which is a ball, and then this pin hitch. This pin hitch will actually make it so it can run behind the forage harvester as well while we're doing corn silage. We have 2 of these that are going to be in play. And you can see the auger back here, but these will actually take forage crops through the auger, as well as your regular auger crops. So, that's that. Obviously, we have this over here, the Bergman. We have a manure fork for our telehandler. And then we have another pile of freaking manure. So that rounds out the basic equipment. Obviously, there's a few other forklifts and things around. We do have the dairy purchase here that's supplying us. We do have a tractor trailer. Let me try to get over to that. Yeah, that shows you how much equipment we have. This is our other JCB. It's over at the dairy currently. Sorry about that. Had to mute my mic for a second. Okay, so this is the TLX Phoenix and the trailer that goes along with it. Obviously, if you saw the beginning when I was floating around, you would have seen this. This is what I'm using right now from 82 Studios. He is working on a Mack truck, and I will be switching over to Mack. As you can see, we've got wheat running through. We've got flour being produced right now. We've got 72,000 liters of wheat. So that's... I think that's actually the last... yeah, that's the last of the wheat. I haven't looked this grain bin over very carefully. Looks like I'm going to need to buy an unloading auger for that. But we'll probably get the one that requires a tractor to be hooked up, just so we have something a little different. Can actually close the gate on that, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this case. It's got the Nico dryer going on it, which is wicked cool. I'm hoping once you dump material in, these dryers will actually start right up, and that would be kind of cool if the dryer starts up. But I haven't had any material in here yet, so God only knows. We'll have soybean in here, and we'll have corn in here for sure. Shore track. I think that's just a system that kind of keeps track of the overall status in the bins. AGI is a new brand to the game as of today, so some of these things are being shown off as of today. Just like this warehouse. This is gonna hold 20 million liters of product. As you can see, it's got a kind of a Euro-American feel to the whole thing. I like the fact that it's blue. I don't have a whole lot of blue, and there isn't a whole lot of blue on this map either. So that's wicked cool. But yeah, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. First things first, let's go ahead and let's change up the clock time. So you can see we've got several different Holsteins. Productivity rate for both sets of Holsteins are 100% because we're using total mixed ration to basically feed the cattle. You can see I keep a base of hay in there. I keep a base of hay in there just in case for some reason I forget that I have the cattle going. Okay, so productivity is only at 10% on this group, but this is the group that I just moved. Health is 100% on both. Productivity will shoot up to 100 by tomorrow, I imagine. So milk slurry, those things will not necessarily shoot up right away, but that's okay. They don't need to shoot up right away. They just need to be there. Okay, so AGI bins are here. Everything is good. Oh, let's get back to what I was supposed to be doing here. Okay, so we're going to set the clock back to 3 times. Economic difficulty is set to easy, and I will be honest, the reason that this is set to easy is because easy on here is the financial difficulty of hard on FS19. It has changed substantially. We are going to change some things up for another stream that I have planned, but for this particular series on Frankenmuth, it's gonna be easy. Don't expect any of you to care. Don't expect anybody to criticize or comment. No one ever does. But that's what I've decided to do at this point. All right. So we've got it back to 3 times. The clock scale will remain at 3 times for the entire series. And the first thing I want to get going with today is I want to get going with our slurry production. Or with our slurry spreading. So we have current field data out on all of our fields, which means anything to do with lime spreading or fertilizer spreading. Excuse me. Sorry. It's been a long day. Anything to do with those will be easily rectified and handled. So we're just going to get in our big boy and go over to our hayfield that needs working. $96.20. This is a gorgeous tractor. As you can see, fire it up, it moves, shutters. The Green Star system loads up slowly but surely. It does block out the primary screen that sees miles per hour, RPMs, things like that, but that's okay. We have our old console system here. That's pretty fantastic. The stick does shift. I don't know why the slider doesn't go up. It's a hare instead of a tortoise, but it's the way it works. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am literally going to go around and haul out all of the slurry that we have stowed away in the animal pens. So that is job number 1. Doesn't matter if there's only a couple 100 liters or a couple 1,000 liters, we're going to empty out the literage. Well, that's the first time I've taken anything out of that pit. The regular barn will produce somewhere around 17,000 liters a day. So in 2 days, we basically have a full tank for what's going to be the Samson. Maneuver around. That cart actually stayed there while I built the other cow barn. I was pleasantly surprised by that. Let's check. Okay, so there's no liters of slurry left. There is 24,000 liters of slurry in the other barn. Obviously, we're going to get things a little better organized and put away. Like I said, once that stave silo's empty, then we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of getting that area kind of grassed out, put a few more trees in, get some specific roadways. We're not going to go super huge with the equipment here on Frankenmuth. I could have gone real crazy and done something like, you know, the John Deere X9 harvester. And the S770 is enough for me. I was considering the T560 as an option. There is a modded version out there that looks really nice. But I decided to keep it simple, stupid, and move myself into the 770. It's just an all-around great brand. Okay. Start filling. There we go. Obviously, for this hayfield, this first hayfield that we're working on the large one. It's pretty much right next door to the farm here. And we're just laying down a simple batch of nitrogen through slurry. And this is a 500 horse tractor, so this shouldn't struggle with it. We could talk about the possibility of another one. Now you can see in the mini screen there when you drive over the field, the nitrogen levels pop out. This is a field that is a potato field that withered and died out. It is not a field that we've done any work on so far, but that's because we're going to be seed drilling into this. And so we're going to be putting a crop, probably of corn, right here. And we're just kind of planting as many of the crops as we can that are going to feed. So hopefully we're going to get 3 million liters or so. That's kind of the goal we're shooting for, is 3 million liters of corn, which means these big fields are going to get, corn options. Now we go into the grass field here. There's a couple of things to note right away about the grass. Number one is it's at a ready-to-harvest stage. This ready-to-harvest stage is not what we're going to be doing here, though. This is not even close. So nitrogen obviously hits perfect levels at 80 and 160, 145, 80. And then we get into some really bad nitrogen levels. There isn't anything there. The yield's expected to be a lot less. There's actually an additional growth stage to this. And that's why we're out here with this tractor today, getting ready to put the nitrogen in the ground. So first things first, we want to go ahead and extend these arms out. None of the fields around this hayfield have been planted yet. This is March the 2nd. We won't even be planting tomorrow. Or tomorrow in-game anyway. And lower these drop hoses down. We're going to turn on the application process. I thought we were turning it on. Excuse me. Turn it on. Now we're going to burn through slurry at a rather ridiculous rate. I mean, it is just going to be off the charts kind of crazy. This is pretty normal as a real slurry dump would kind of go just like this. You can see the agitator and the hose for the top of the tank. You can move those around. If we're doing more of a role-playing series, maybe down the road we'll do a little more of that. But for today, we want to get at least a layer of nitrogen on here. We're actually going to shut that off for a second. Go back here. I just want to show you the nitrogen levels are nuts. Now, we have the John Deere piece on the tractor itself. We have the nitrogen sensor, or whatever it is that will actually sense the slurry going through the pipe to the distributor to make sure that you're getting the proper amount. So it is absolutely crazy to think that the amount of nitrogen going in here is going to give us some ridiculous yields. And this is a huge field too, so this is not something lightweight that we're just doing to do. This is something that we're doing to produce real results when it comes to our hay. We'll get down to this end here. We'll get ourselves turned around. You can see the overlapping areas have a lot of concentration of slurry, and they're going to get us some green marks. We don't have to have green in a hay field. You don't have to dream of green. You don't have to do anything insane. You just have to get it spread on here. So we're going to go ahead. Try not to overlap too much. There's quite a lot of slurry in that pit, but there isn't enough. We're going to use the slurry primarily on our hay fields. And, you know, if we get to the point where we're producing enough slurry and enough digestate, we will shift over to doing things like, you know, all of our fields in a base of slurry and digestate. Okay. So we're going to go ahead, we'll fold up the distributor here. Boy, oh boy. You can see the moment you fold up the distributor, in the case of this, it will actually stop showing certain bits of data. Don't know why. It just does it that way. Frankenmuth. When they said Frankenmuth, it kind of took me by surprise. You don't see too many American maps, and you don't see anything. Excuse me. You don't see anything quite as unique as Frankenmuth, really. The mapper did a fantastic job in kind of capturing some accents of what Michigan farming is. I absolutely love the weather maps on this. It's kind of, it's an interesting piece because the way that the weather runs, you can do things like harvest corn in December. So the mapper didn't make a super unique map as they did. They just made a super interesting and unique set of things. And what I mean by that is I wanna specifically touch while we're doing this on the weather patterns and the way that weather is handled here in Frankenmuth. So all the other maps that I've ever been on for Farming Simulator 22, and even to an extent a lot of the maps that I've been on for Farming Simulator 19, were not really created for seasons. Which I know it sounds ridiculous when you talk about it, But Seasons really came about in a quasi-serious simulator sense when it came to actually playing that game. You know, it was a simulator. There was a lot going on. There was a lot more that wasn't going on. And it became more of this idea that if we do it this way, we might actually be able to, give people a simulator. But the maps were still not really created with Seasons in mind necessarily. Now some of them, holy crap, I'm going to keep missing that outer edge because of this. But some of them specifically, obviously a lot of them had updates in order to handle things like Seasons, right? We know that because we played enough FS19 to know that. In the case of FS22, Seasons are a built-in feature of the map that I feel like don't necessarily reflect what Seasons really is. So we've got Seasons, and then we've got FS22 Seasons, and that's Giants. That's Giants trying to work the system, right? Like they are legitimately trying to work for the people so that Seasons works out well. So that it's a feature that's accessible to everybody on the system. But one of the things that I did notice, and it's hard to overlook it, is that Seasons are done at a pace that the rest of the game was designed at. And the rest of the game, to be fair, was designed with one-day months involved, right? So in a month, you're going to experience everything within a day's worth of clock. So in that day's worth of time, you've experienced an entire season. Now, design-wise, that's what they always had in mind, and you can't really fault them for it. But when I sit there in the middle of, say, February on Elm Creek, we'll just use Elm Creek as an example because that's a base game map, right? So we're sitting on Elm Creek and we're doing farming. It's February. We've started the process of maybe some field work, and it decides that night it's going to snow, and so you've got snow on the ground. Well, then your first reaction, obviously, snow is going to impede everything that you do. So you go ahead, you rent a snowblower, or you grab the snowblower that you bought, or maybe you buy the snowblower with the intention of, this is really cool, I'm going to be snowblowing, I'm going to have to clear snow. I don't necessarily have the ability to get out into the field today because I have to clear the yard. So I have to clear a yard, and by clearing the yard, I'll then be able to move on to, say, winter tillage, for example. Something that's absolute nonsense, but different parts of the world actually do it. So you get the snow blowing done, you move on to your tillage, you start working the fields, and next thing you know, all that snow that you moved an hour later into the game's day, and like 3 hours later, it's afternoon in-game, 3 hours later, all of a sudden, the snow's gone. It just melts. Now, I will admit that programming a slow melt is a very difficult thing to do. But programming it so that you literally get snow in the morning, clear it, and by afternoon, it's melted. I come from a state that snows all the time. Okay, 5 to 6 months out of the year is winter here. We don't necessarily get the Alaska snows. We don't necessarily even get Wyoming or Montana. But everyone who's anyone will tell you from those states that that is not how that works. That is not remotely how that works. Because none of us would waste the money on the fuel. None of us would waste the money on the time. If we knew tomorrow that we were going to get a massive snowstorm that's got a foot of snow, but that foot of snow would literally be gone that afternoon, we would put shit off. We would drive our vehicles in the snow. We would. We would drive our vehicles in the foot of snow. We would take our time getting to work, and then we would just go to work. Because that's how that works. We wouldn't sit there and go, well, okay, now we've got snow on the ground. We can't, we've got to stop. We've got to burn through diesel. We've got to burn through unleaded. We've got to get our yards cleared. We wouldn't do that stuff to just deal with it or just live with the fact that it would be gone the next morning. We wouldn't do that. You know, you would not in 1,000 years do that. You know, but for Farming Simulator, in order to be a game and in order to be an accessible game, you have to be willing to do things like that. And to the game makers, I understand why you're doing it. I understand your design scheme. I understand where you're coming from. And I feel like the game is adapting to go beyond that as it is. So I don't see this as an issue anymore. And the reason that I would ever see it as an issue previously is because previously we didn't have all the mods that we have out currently. You know, now we have mods out that are showing the capabilities of the game maker, of the game engine. We have mods that are showing great potential, right? So at this point, you know, there is a lot of potential being shown, and there's a lot of different nuances going on. So just as an example, Frankenmuth kind of surprised me in a lot of ways. So obviously today's Tuesday, I'm in my second day back at work, and you're seeing this stream in Frankenmuth, and it's spring. I'm spreading slurry on hayfields. Hayfields that will probably harvest the end of next month. Because you're seeing it this way, the automatic thought is that it was perhaps just like the other maps in the system. Only it really wasn't. In this case, what happened here on Frankenmuth is winter came along, December was light, January was heavy, and February was the same way. So for 3 months, out of the calendar year on Frankenmuth, you spend more time clearing snow than you do doing contracts. And I haven't done a single contract because I spent an entire weekend this last weekend getting through winter on Frankenmuth, passing 6 days on Frankenmuth so that I could get through winter so I could have my first stream of the week in spring. Because spring is going to allow us to do planting. Spring is going to allow us to do slurry spreading. You know, all those things come into play for spring. Well, it took us a little while to get here. When I would snowblow in the morning after an overnight snowstorm, there was a foot of ground on, a foot of snow on the ground, and it became detrimental to movement. It became detrimental to have the yard go more than a snowstorm. You could get away with maybe a snowstorm not clearing, but if a second snowstorm came around, you had to have things ready. because it was tremendous how much snow was falling. And it really did imitate an area that gets a lot of snow. So for the first time in Farming Simulator 22 fashion, for that very first time playing Frankenmuth, it's been utterly impressive. Like, I've been downright impressed with the whole kit and caboodle. I'm not even going to have enough slurry to finish that first field. I'm going to have to substitute it with manure. 9620 is nice. We're gonna fertilize up the couple of fields that we have in the area. We're gonna get those squared away. Hay fields I would like to do all natural, but reality is until I have enough cows making slurry day in and day out, it's probably not going to happen at the level that we want. Although slurry spreading is not something that I've done on stream very often, so it's really nice. So anyway, as far as weather goes, it was definitely enjoyable to play on Frankenmuth for the winter time. I can't wait to stream a winter season on there. You guys are just going to listen to me talk about other things while I snowblow. That's what it feels like. Obviously, there's been some real interesting things with Farm Sim. The market for things like mods have definitely opened up quite a bit. I've been absolutely impressed with the directions that mods have taken. That's not something I can typically say, and that's not something that I definitely could say over the time that we had to talk about Farm Sim the last few times that I streamed. Obviously, I didn't get very far, and I'm not impressed with the hiccups that I've had. It's definitely been the largest amount of hiccups has definitely been Farming Simulator 22. 19 didn't give me this much trouble when I streamed. So to stream and have this much trouble going on has been really difficult. But with that being said, there have been a lot of improvements. There was what I would perceive to be kind of a panicked scramble to contain an issue where pallets from productions were definitely causing games to seize up. It caused Giants to actually go the route of putting limits on the amount of pallets that could spawn. They still have limits now, but as of today's patch, those limits and limitations have been eased. And so a lot of people are feeling a little better about the game. Omatana, a modder that I typically go to for unique placeables, and in this particular game, it's been the unique placeables involving productions. She recently came out with a set of sheds that would hold productions pallets the way that a silo did, and she made it adaptable so that as long as it was being read in system code as a production type, you could get away with storing it. And so that blue shed over there, like I was mentioning before, holds 20 million liters of production products. The problem that we had with the pallet limit count, and it's still a problem that we have right now, is pallets are an everyday item, right? Like, pallets are used on everything. And so when you have a pallet that you can't spawn because there's too many pallets on the map, it becomes difficult because you can't clear a production when a production's full up because the production's got pallets in storage. Now, if you're real production heavy, this is going to cause problems. I can honestly say that some of the things I do are real production heavy. Other things that I do in the game have nothing to do with productions. I will say that the series that we're going to do beyond Frankenmuth is going to be a series handling just crops. We won't be doing productions on that one, whereas Frankenmuth, you're getting to see productions, you're getting to see all sorts of things. Not just excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm running the most basic of streams tonight. So I'm not really giving too much thought into it. We'll leave the 9620 hooked up to this right now. This is really kind of a tillage grunt, and we're not running tillage. But that's another topic of conversation that we're going to have tonight involving precision farming, and we'll actually do that in a little bit. 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Fun thoughts. I've been up since 5:30 this morning, so we will probably stream for another hour or so. God, I like that. I like this bunker silo. This bunker silo is pretty good. You can actually put the pallets of silage additive right here. I don't know why you'd leave silage additive pallets out in the open, but apparently you can do that. Farmers actually buy them in like gallon jugs. Normally 2 or 3 gallons. So enough classic tractors on here, right? That's kind of been the mood that I've been in lately has been for the older equipment. Obviously, I have a couple newer pieces of equipment here. But for the most part, it's actually been kind of the older pieces of equipment that have been drawing me in. Obviously older can be anything from like the 70s and up. From here, it can even be further back. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough stuff further back. Oh, excuse me. Further back than the mid-70s. I mean, that's kind of asking a lot. I'm gonna get this manure hauled over to our other field. I'm gonna use a spot sprayer on the remainder of the grass fields, just because we don't have anything we don't really have anything natural to do it on. And this is fantastic. So you can kind of see. A lot of these areas, it absolutely amazes me. It's like we're at 123% yield on this field. It's got one more layer of growth to go, and we're just going to leave it at one more layer of growth to go. We're just going to leave it for right now. I don't know if we're having as good a luck, and I don't even know if this strip is going to actually require any fertilizers. We're going over. This strip was planted with our cedar. So we're just going to go ahead. We're actually going to review this. I'm probably going to use it on that bare spot. And I just want to review. Traffic is crazy. Yeah, so we're sitting at a perfect nitrogen scale. 65 kilograms per hectare would be normal. This is ready to harvest as well. This is amazing. Alright, so we're going to take the manure, and we're actually just going to go ahead and hit that one spot. It doesn't have it yet. enjoy this tractor quite a lot. I actually had this tractor when I started playing. I got rid of it for a while. The problem with the slot count being so heavy now, on the amount of slots you have, is a lot heavier than it used to be. And so it becomes an issue trying to do all this because you just want to play with everything you weren't able to play with before. Obviously, I'm not blowing any extra money at the moment. You can see I've got 468,000 in the bank. We're gonna give it the old 1-2. I like using natural components. I'm half tempted, perfectly honest with you, I'm half tempted to go ahead and get myself the manure and slurry buy point, so you can actually buy manure and slurry. This is fantastic. I haven't actually used this particular thing yet, so I haven't spread manure over something like this before. Looks like it goes a tad bit slower than the slurry. We're just going to eliminate that. Okay, let's fold it up. We didn't use all of it today, so we can run the 9,000 down to the other grass field, or we can simply run the sprayer down. I think we're going to run the sprayer down. We do have to run a truck over there first, so we can get the couple bales that are still over there. I think what we're going to do, this grass is almost ready to go. I'm going to have hay pretty much ready to go right away. So I may or may not go ahead and start selling some of these bales off. This is a big yard, big farmyard. We have a few things to kind of set into place. Obviously, the manure spreader goes here, so we can just kind of transport the manure. When that pit starts getting full, I like to close it up. Okay, so let's think. Let's go get the auto load trailer. Yep, an auto load for the bale is what we're using. It's not a common thing that I actually go about and use, but I can't really help myself at this point. So we are going to try for the next couple of years in-game, we're going to try a system of farming that's taking hold. And that system of farming is what we call no-till farming. So, no-till or low-impact tillage is basically light to no tillage on the ground to avoid any sort of erosion. Because erosion is a big part of this, but it is tied into precision farming. So that is a big plus. Precision farming is about going green with your farm, basically. Going as green as you can. Making a sustainable farm for the future. So everything that we have on the farm here, everything that we make on the farm, is a little bit of an environmental score bonus. Obviously, the better treatment of the fields you get, the better the environmental score. As you can see, we kind of have weeds growing up everywhere on that. That's gonna bring that environmental score down a little bit. I don't know how much though. Let's get precision up here. So it says we've got a 72 score on there. Basically, different actions will bring you different individual scores. So my environmental score over 1 is at a 61%. I'm actually doing pretty good. We want to eventually get these scores up to 100%. Whether or not that's possible, I don't know. But one of the quickest ways of making that possible is to no-till. So seed drills, both when it comes to planters and seeders, will be more apt to do less damage. Because it's opening up a big enough trench, it's putting stuff in, and it's covering it up. You know, and it goes for weeds instead of doing like a blanket weed spray on everything. You do what they call spot spraying, which those little lenses pick up on the weeds and they spritz the areas that they find weeds with their eyes, you know, with the scanner eyes. So it's quite a step in a different direction than people used to. Of course, one of the things that we might do is we might do a more traditional American thing moving forward once we start making manure, once we start making slurry, is we may transport manure ahead of the spread over to a field and then get like a front loader bucket on one of the tractors and bring that over and then bring the manure spreader over. So there's a few different things that we can do. You see this grass field. Let's get... So that's telling me that the pH is good. That's another thing that you can look up on this. You can go over and you can get a good pH readout. You can kind of see the darker greens are where we've had pH. This says that we haven't had anything spread in that little section there, and nothing spread down here in this section. So we may want to get the lime spreader. 27's been handled. 21 did not lose its liming process. 13 we did a liming on. We're going to leave 12 exactly as it is. We're going to leave 11 exactly as it is. And then, of course, the rest of these you can see through the soil information. Most of them got what they were supposed to in lime. So we may or may not go back to the hayfield, but as for the rest of these fields, well, I don't rightly know. I think we're gonna pick up the bales first. We're gonna get those out of here. Toggle operating position. This is March the 2nd and March the 3rd. They are perfect time frames for this particular style of doing things. Because you can do everything you have to before April planting. I kind of dropped the ball on doing this kind of March the 1st, and by the time I realized I was progressing time further in than I had wanted to, you know, I wanted to really do a stream. Spring activity was what. Alright, so we got 5 bales here at 27%. What we're actually going to do is we're going to run these down to the animal dealer and sell this this flat off. I think we're going to take 2 flats out of the main yard and do the same thing. My number one concern at this point is just making sure that in the 5 or 6 months or so when the cows give birth that we actually have enough food. Now I can purchase, I can purchase things like silage bales, so I don't necessarily have to worry about it. But I do not want to be stuck in a position where I have to constantly buy for 6 or 7 months before food's ready. So obviously we're doing the silage pit. Holy schmoly, I guess that truck is just moving. Wow, traffic moves a lot faster in this game. We'll ease off. I like the power lines out in the middle of the field. Makes it kind of a pain in the butt when you're trying to plant. Somebody killed off their weeds. Computers are starting to do their job. I'm not doing weed kills right now because our no-seed tillage, when I run the seeder and the planter over those sections, I should actually get quite a fair amount of those weeds taken care of. It'll probably reset the field. I did practice, you know, there's a couple things that we did test ahead of time, or that I tested ahead of time of doing streams. Part of the reason to play from August of last year in game. But the big thing that I did notice is if you do, you know, herbicide spray on the weeds when you've got a field like that that's already been harvested, is that it's good for that field for the moment, but the moment you put in a crop, then it will start to grow back. So there's a serious thing going on with $4,143 in sold bales. Did not get an environmental score bonus with that. Wonder what's up with that. We'll have to see if maybe their patch took that out. Anyway, what I found is you end up having to go over the field again, the herbicide sprayer. Just, you know, in a different month, in a different growth cycle, and you have to drive through the field. It's a big pain in the butt when you could easily just go ahead and leave it as is, and then when you finally put the, you know, seeds in the ground, then you can come back and kind of do that herbicide spray. It's in the first stage of growth. All right. Well, the good news is we have that field cleared of bales. Those bales have sat out all winter long out there in that field. I didn't feel like carrying back the last few. We are going to go ahead and we will get the 7810 with the rear twins out. We'll actually do a run with that tractor. I'm gonna bring the truck back. I think until we're loaded up, at least on the first layer of hay, we're gonna keep the bales in play. We're gonna need to get these bales sold before our harvest of wheat comes in the middle of summer, because this is the place where those bales will go as they're slowly shredded. And we also need to consider getting a front loader arm up for one of our 7810s. It's nice and quiet on the farm. I like that. This tractor, of course, is a little different than the one that's used for snow blowing. Got ladder extensions on there, extensions for safety lights because of the fact that it's a dual row crops, 2-wheel drive instead of your 4-wheel drive, that sort of thing. Alright, so first things first, I'm gonna go pick up the spreader. like to try to get this done before the rain comes in. I don't know. It kind of kills it for me on the realism factor if I'm still out in the field spreading things that are powdered for them and don't have the tarp cover. This, even though it has a frame, does not actually have a real tarp. So let's load up. One load should actually do us just fine for this. Whoa! Got a car coming out. Suppose I should have looked both ways. You may have noticed that this small garage here, as you come in and go to the back, has all of our fertilizer bits to it. That is actually pretty common. That Meridian silo to the side there is full of liquid fertilizer. And then we do have a silo back here that distributes lime. And we just pay to have it refilled. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to put a full load into that. AD 7000, that's a nice piece. There isn't much lime left in the silo, so we'll have to get a hold of our supplier and get that bought back up. Boy. The price of everything, let's shut the light off. We can leave the barn open. It's warm enough. According to the forecast, we're in the 60s right now. 50s. Well, we're going to actually be in the 50s for the next day. These are actual, these are very seasonally correct pieces. Close the door while I'm standing here. We don't need that. Exposed to the elements. These are very seasonally correct weather temperatures. Just, it's shocking. Like I said, the weather patterns in this are a bit more shocking because of how much more accurate they truly are compared to a lot of the maps out there. They just kind of throw a dart at the board. We're going to get lime put out on the rest of that field, and then we'll come back with this tractor, get a sprayer hooked up, and spray down that grass field. Fertilizer in that sprayer or not. And then I think we're going to call it a day. There's definitely enough to be done here that we don't necessarily have to cover it all in one stream. We don't have to stay up super late. I get Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays off. I'm going to try to squeeze 1 to 2 streams a week in. As long as I feel like it. If I don't feel like doing a stream, I'm not going to do a stream. And hopefully next week or the week after that, you'll get to see a stream set up on a new format. I haven't made up my mind if we're actually going to do the new format or not yet, though. So it's something that we'll definitely have to take a look at and see. We may go back to Stream Labs if I can kind of justify, if I get on enough in a month to justify paying the $12 a month that I do. Then Stream Labs may be the route that we go with it. I don't honestly know at this point. It's hard to tell. There's so much going on in my life. There's so much going on in the world that there, between everything that's going on in my life and everything that's going on in the outside world to influence my life, may dictate how often I get on. If I'm getting on once a week, we're gonna stick probably to the same format of just plain Jane. if I get enough people that subscribe to the channel and enough people that want to help me so I get, you know, acknowledged and affiliated, then we can definitely talk about maybe moving up with the production values. Streamlabs was definitely a good stretch of time here. It was even better when I was streaming a lot, but just because I haven't been getting the streaming in, we're taking a little break from that. There is a new option in the streaming options to actually go to Streamlabs with it. That may be the format that we end up going with. The only thing that really concerns me about that in particular is just the fact that it looks like there's some sort of login, and there may be a subscription cost to that as well. So we'll have to see. Alright, so 42 meter spread width is going to make this a piece of cake. Obviously, this is going to cover a little bit more than what we need to. But it should also shut off. See, application set to automatic. So it's going to shut off anytime that I take issue. And it should keep us from overdoing it. I just don't want to overdo it here. I do want to see the spot spray in action with fertilizer. That is a new thing that is occurring as of this update as well. So it's like it's a perfect time to come in and do a stream, because so much with precision farming in particular has been reformatted. Kind of hoping we wouldn't chew through as much as we're chewing through here. But that's basically the price of doing business. Lime spreads quick. Yeah, I'm actually going to run it out of lime. Okay, well that's where we're going to stick with lime. I'm not going to make an effort to go beyond. It's only one little tiny patch. So I don't mind that personally. I think that's more than sufficient for what we're doing here. Love this tractor, I really do. Design's good. It tends to be, what I find is when they're doing things that are base game model only, they're doing it with their touches. They're doing it around, and the texture level is a little better. Obviously, pictures and textures of higher quality will take more slots, which is something that console players like myself still have to pay attention to. Slot count is basically the allowable amount of equipment before the machine tries to kill itself. It's up a little over 4,000 slots that we can have. And to be honest with you, that's high enough that it's hard for me to even bother looking at equipment slot levels with that. Part of the reason that it's so difficult to look at slot levels with that is just for the basic fact that a lot of this equipment now doesn't take as many slots. Oh, welcome to the welcome to the corner where people really can't make up their minds. I love that corner, by the way. That intersection, that happens at that intersection all the time. Breakdancing cars, I like to say. You may have noticed also on this particular tractor, there's a mount here at the top of the cab. You can see that little plate there. Probably can't see it on the stream. But then right there in that corner is that black stand as well that comes off from the frame, just above those two gauges. And those are replacement mountings for the Green Star system. The Green Star system can actually come on and off of this tractor. You can still have the mounting points, but you don't have to necessarily have the Green Star on there. I like that. That adds a sense of realism. Farmers that are doing work on their fields aren't necessarily going to have Green Star up and on their tractors at all times. A lot of that costs money. It has subscription fees. They can't afford to put it on all of their tractors. So when I use a planter, I like to mount the Green Star system on this thing when I'm planting, and then when I'm not planting, I simply remove it. It's a nifty little piece. But it's not always necessary. Some of these mods are still missing some minor touches. Obviously, it's like the other tractor I have there has a Green Star screen in it, but it doesn't have a Green Star satellite uplink mount on the top of the cab. And, there are a couple of tractors out there that you can put the Green Star link. It'll give you the option to put the monitor in, and instead of getting a monitor, you don't get anything. Alright. Sorry about that. I thought I heard something. I pulled my headphones away from my head here. Okay. We don't have to take soil samples. It's not actually going to be a bother if we put the lime away, the lime spreader away for now. This is exactly how this building is set up right now. We have the lime spreader in one bay, and we have the spot spray in the other. And this is primarily the tractor that we use. It doesn't take much for horsepower or anything to get the system up and running. You see, at the moment we have herbicide in there. That's not gonna work for us, so we're gonna go ahead and we'll actually offload that. Jeez. I can't even keep myself on a straight line here. We're gonna offload that over here. That'll just make life a little easier. And you can see it conveniently fits into one. There's only 1,200 liters in there anyway. Alright, so let's start filling this up. We're actually going to go the whole range with it. I don't want to leave anything underdone. Now we're going to see how that nitrogen mix works. What we're actually going to do here at this point is we're going to go ahead and set that like so. I do want to see one other thing before I go out into the field with this. It may or may not matter. Let's get this up into the workshop and see. Need to see if there's a customizing option. I love it, having both of them here. Okay, customize. Okay. See, you can even put a rock box on this. I don't know if you can fill it with rocks or not. I've never tried to actually just come by and fill that with stones. I gotta try that at some point, though. Okay, so we're not gonna mess with anything then. I'm just gonna go ahead and use it. I'm getting progressively tired as we go through this. So this was not bound to last super long. But we've been here since 8:30. Probably call it at just around 10, depending on how long this field takes us. Should just get this down to a single tire on each rear. Probably for hay season. Probably for hay season. Just because we can run a tedder on this tractor. Takes a bit to get down to this hay field, but the rewards for this are pretty big. Obviously, we want a hay that's going to yield us the best we can for 2 runs. But I'm really not sure. You know, obviously we're not sure how much hay we're going to pull. I'm not sure how many times in a year you can manage to pull hay. Obviously in seasons, if you cut too soon on grass, it would take a while to grow back. Or if you cut it the wrong time of the year, it could take a long time to grow back. It's hard because I haven't progressed this far into a season. So I've never worked our way into a second year on seasons. This is kind of a first for me progressively. Normally I'll get a month or 2 cleared, and then I'll start a let's play on it, or I might even start a let's play in the same starting month. Obviously we start in August. There's 3 days per month. We're just kind of coming back here in March for our first stream. I don't know if it'll ever be the same, or it's gonna remain different. But I mean, just between this variant and Farming Simulator 19, it's rather big. Obviously, there's some great gameplay changes, and maybe it's because I just moved into. Maybe it's because I had this attitude of this is what we're doing. Why did I come down here with a sprayer again? I don't actually know why I came down here with a fertilizer. I think I already did. So you can see the spray coming out of the spout. reality, it's not doing anything. Okay, let's shut that off. I think I just messed that up. Yeah, you know what? I sprayed that while I was down here. So nitrogen's spot on now. You can see the pH value and the nitrogen are all where they need to be. Yield potential is 89%, and I am looking at a yield potential of 89%. There are a couple of points off in possible yield on that. I feel really stupid right now. I'm gonna be honest. Obviously, the next stream that we have, we're gonna do some hay. We're gonna do some planting. There'll be a few things to do. The month of March is pretty basic. Like I said, I want to give April is gonna be like a big deal because the first 2 days I think will be the first 2 days at least will be planting, and then the third day will probably be the hay. Obviously, we've got some odd tools for that. We've got some tools that we're seeing on some streams right now for the hay, for any pickup really. So continuation of that. We take this month and actually get some greenhouses planted, which actually at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive this down and I'm going to disgorge the fertilizer in the tanks here, because the next time I use this will be for herbicide. So rather than keep the herbicide in there, I'm going to go ahead and run down to the greenhouses here. We'll offload that, and that way that's just going to be in the parking lot or whatnot, ready for use. That's going to be what, 3.5 containers worth. Actually, I think it's either 1,000 or 2,000 liters per container. I can't recall because I never buy the containers. Just buy the containers. It's gotten a long way around of doing fertilizer. Let's take a look. You can look around for collectibles. There's collectibles on each one of the maps. Boy, you look inside some of these houses, and they've got some really snazzy rooms, huh? For being like beat up old homes in the Midwest. But we're holding up traffic. We better stop that. I haven't had a chance to really look through all of these fields. Depending on what collectibles you find will depend on the amount of money you receive for collectibles as well. So we've got the regular wooden toys, but they have a set of Massey tractors around. And each one of those Massey tractors you find is worth 10 grand. So that's pretty cool stuff. But as you can see, we don't have anything remotely going on. Let's see. Are these fields? These fields are harvested. That's a soybean field. Oh boy. been quite a night. It's been quite a day. A lot of my days, I'm too tired when I get home to want to do any of this sort of stuff. Um, Obviously, there was a lot of time in which I put off doing any of this sort of thing because I had to come home and watch a toddler. Um, I know I started a little later tonight. That's because I spent a little time with my family. But there will be a couple of nights a week where I may be able to pull myself away early and kind of work on things that way. We'll honestly, we'll have to see. Streaming on the fly. I'm not sure if that was the best name for a title, but it is what it is. Okay, let's unload. So that ended up being 2 containers of that. While we're here, we might as well. Let's see. That's full, so it's down to these 3. There's 10,000 liters in that one. No liters in that one yet. So let's go ahead. I want to find out anyway. I want to find out how much it's going to cost us to, or how much fertilizer it's going to take to put in these. So this is a good time to break up the experiment. Obviously, I've got a few different things going tonight. It's quarter to 10 at this point, so this is going to be the last thing that we experiment with, but why am I getting harvesting? Not really sure what I just saw there. The environmental score is back on, though. That's good. I don't know. Maybe you got some water in the auger pit. Who knows? I love that setup. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's back up the truck. 30,000 liters available. Just gonna refill the tank. This is another 82 Studios mod, so obviously we've got. This one actually has the sprayer nozzle, so I could actually fertilize with this tank. It's kind of the funny part. And I hope that it allows me to do what it allows me to do with water. Looks like it is going to allow me to do that. So we're just going to start right from here. Like I said, I have no idea. Okay, it looks like it takes 2,000. Okay, so it takes 3,000 liters of liquid fertilizer, 30,000 liters of water. It is going to take a little bit to get these filled. Probably do that myself. Probably get some other production chains going as well. Okay. Let's just zoom around to here and see if my... And I do have the mod that currently increases the amount of literage per pallet on the basics. So that's bringing the pallet down count subtly and without a purposeful intent. It's like this. This right here is an intent and purpose to keep things from getting out of hand. You know, it gives us a storage facility in which you can actually store. So that's actually a really cool touch. All right, well, as you can see, that's Frankenmuth. That's our dairy farm. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of dairy farming going on. I love this truck, by the way. If you haven't seen this is one thing I'd like to show. It strobes. It's not just a light bar like we have on the top, but it actually strobes. That's a really cool touch. I love that. I don't know why I wanted to talk about it or why I wanted to show it. I did. So the next time you see me, we'll be moving in. We may even be into April. I may take the rest of March and just do a few things that need to be done. Like getting our vehicles put away and stored properly. And getting ready for essentially a good hay season. So keep an eye out for that. We're gonna try our hardest to handle a few things, and hopefully everything works out really well. This is my first real jump back into this, and it's been wicked fun so far. I mean, wicked. That's a Mainer thing, by the way. But yeah. That'll do it for this episode here on Frankenmuth. I'd like to thank you all for coming on and watching either tonight. Obviously, there's no conversations going on in my chat window. I won't see how many people were actually on until later. And hopefully, the next time you see a stream will be either on Streamlabs or back on Lightstream. And hopefully I'm 110% more optimistic about what we're doing here. So thank you all so much for coming in, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Remember, today is hump day. We're halfway through this. We're going to get all the way through this. And remember, remain optimistic. It's a real troublesome world out there right now. Jump on what you like to jump on. Talk about what you like to talk about, and make sure to follow those interests to the best of your ability. Don't stress. You don't control the world. You simply live in it. All right. Well, thank you so much again, and have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful evening.